bro, I'm gonna start. So for everyone here, I know NZT from the PBA, the Blockchain Academy from Polkadot was a super nice experience. NZT right from the first day showed that he was really capable, knew a lot of that stuff. He was actually already working at a parting before the academy itself. So it was really nice to see him. Bro, can you tell us a little bit about your background before development, the stuff you used to do, and how you got into coding and so on, please?
Yeah, sure. Well, I started coding back in middle school, so it was just an interesting thing to explore. Started with some small Python scripts and playing around, and then at one point, yeah, I started exploring the open source space, but also the security together. The- So regarding that part, like one of the most influential thing was the local security conference, the city nearby Belgrade where I'm based. So in Novi Sad there was like a Balkan Computer Congress, which is, if some of you are familiar, similar to the Chaos Communication Congress that's held in Germany, like probably the biggest and most important conference in Europe for the security people. And this is just was a smaller version for us in Serbia with a lot of like cool speakers from DEFCON, from Chaos Communication and other big conference. And yeah, I was, I guess, 16 years old, something like that. And all those people from the conference had like a much influence on me. They were quite cool, and yeah, I was going there every next year, and so on. And that's also influenced me to start like studying computer engineering, which was like the best available school at that time. So I started there, but also all the time, like, yeah, studies were not my primary thing. It's more like, okay, studies going on as it's good. I will focus as much as I can, but also I like always to have some project aside and play around and participate in different projects. So yeah, similar time at Saturn University, I also joined local hackerspace and started playing Capture the Flags. And yeah, in short, that's it. Like near the end of university, I started looking for a job, and yeah, I guess most of you know, like back then and even now, it's hard to start with a security job. So I was looking in what's interesting in development, some kind of applied cryptography, and it is like at that moment it was blockchain. That's where I started at OriginTrail, and it's now 2.5 years
Really
since that
nice,
day.
really nice, bro. Can you tell us a interesting challenge CTF that you remember in the past?
Well, yeah, maybe like 2 years ago we had some Balkan capture the flag organized by some NGO. I don't even remember the name, but it was like full infrastructure, like simulation of nuclear reactor, where you need to hack different parts of the infrastructure, different servers, get your access there and get the flags. And when you manage to do something like that, you have a live stream of a real life, like a small small nuclear reactor, where if you do something, like the lights will change there. So it was most of the time like scan up the server, look for open ports, try to connect, and then you find out some like weird protocol there running. You try to figure it out and get in communication with it. So it was nothing special, but yeah, it was nice to see like have that real life part. And most of the time, like having participating in real life, competing with people is the most fun CTFs. So yeah, it was nice also hanging out at home and solving on Discord calls and so on. But being together and also seeing like the people you're competing against, it's much fun.
And bro, what about people that are starting to get into security now? I don't know. Are you doing any Web3 security at this point?
Well, professionally, not. I'm just doing out of interest, playing around. So, yeah, when I play CTFs with my team, we are playing. I'm usually the one who is solving the blockchain stuff.
Nice.
But also, yeah, I'm interested quite into exploring the security of the Polkadot ecosystem. Like all the, I think it's quite early there. There's a lot of
True, true.
space to explore and to play around, and that's something that would be interesting for me.
Yeah, speaking of
And
Polkadot security, Clown is here, so maybe you guys should talk after these. And what about Polkadot security? Can you tell us a little bit on how it's different from Ethereum? What the Rust parts, how the Rust parts work? How the analysis is made? Where the attack vectors mostly are?
I mean, it's a huge space. I mean, you have a bunch of different. I mean, it's hard to point into compare it much with the security of Ethereum. I mean, for Ethereum, mostly know about smart contract security, but you have all that like attack vector also in Polkadot with Ink and also EVM based smart contracts, so that's also available there. But again, you also have development of palettes, some specific custom things for blockchain, which like are much more impactful if you manage to exploit them. So I think there are more opportunities, but it's also quite harder. It's a lot hard to develop those, but even much harder to exploit, figure out what are the issues. And I would say, yeah, Polka teams, Parity team so far has it been like implementing the best security practices in their development, doing a lot of um, security audits for their software, and yeah, I didn't see any critical security issues on their side, but there was maybe some with Moonbeam if I remember correctly. But I think it's still too early. Like it is also moving quite fast, so to catch some things you need to be up to date and following also good understanding at first. I mean that's also why I also started with development. I think you need to have like a proper understanding how everything works to know how to build things before you can start exploiting them.
Thing the security researchers really love is money. And can you tell us if I want to approach a early market like the Polkadot security, what should I be learning? I mean, I know Substrate, Rust, the palettes and everything, but what is the grind? Is it just like go and learn Rust and Ink, or there's any kind of path we can take to learn the real important things?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I'm not sure. Probably, I mean, you need to know how, like basic knowledge of Rust and to understand everything, but I don't guess you need anything advanced. Just general security mindset, and I get if you have like some background in Solidity, smart contract security, I guess you can like copy that part onto Ink and try to figure out similar issues there and compare those two languages. It recently was published also a security review by Open Zeppelin for Ink, and yeah, it looks it's like language by itself looks good, it's well designed, but again, more with enough time, like any system, will be exploited there. Will be found out some issues. So it's just question of time and how many people will look at it.
And
So
awesome.
maybe it will be quicker if you like can focus only on one part and understand. I mean, I've been hearing how like the major bug bounty players they manage to figure out some bugs without knowing any specific. They just dig deep into some specific part that looks suspicious to them and try to understand and play around with it. So maybe that can be applied, but I guess without the basics of Rust of that language or similar things, so Substrate how it works, you cannot accomplish much.
Really nice, really interesting. And bro, when we're talking about student learning things, you have any specific approach? Like you have this Notion document with all the links you want to see. You have any kind of, article repository where you have all the things, you have a GitHub trying things every day. How do you approach learning new stuff?
Well, yeah, that's a cool question. I mean, for me, maybe the main thing was the concept called spaced repetition. So maybe you have heard like for Anki cards, and there is app for that, and it is just like basic cards for learning. You have on one side the question, on the other side is the answer, and the main concept is that the app have will calculate repetition when it will show you the card. So first time, if I'm creating a card called What's Ink, first time when I see it, I will try to answer. Then yeah, I need to be honest. I will say, is it hard, easy, or medium for me? If it was an easy answer, it will schedule again and ask me in 5 days. If it was hard, it will ask me again in 1 day. Then after 5 days, it will show up again that card for me. I can answer it. If I say easy, it will like ask me next time in 1 month. So that period is changing according to my answer, how I'm able to remember it, and it's quite easy because I create it on a computer. I use review it on the phone. While I'm on the go in the bus or somewhere. It's just a quick thing, and yeah, helps me to remember a lot of information and concepts that I want to know. I would say that's the main one, and the second one is like learning by doing. So for each thing, I'm trying to like build something to understand it better. Because just by reading or something, yeah, usually we'll forget it quickly.
Yeah, very true, very true. Can you tell us a little bit about OriginTrail, the decentralized graph knowledge, what you guys are building in that, and what are you working specifically?
Yeah, of course. So in OriginTrail, like our main thing is the building the decentralized knowledge graph, and this, if we can simplify, it will be like a layer two network, decentralized network that is storing the data in the form of a triples. So it will have support for Sparkle queries and all other things that is necessary for querying triples, and it will also store the proofs for the data on the blockchain, so it will be all the time verifiable. And you can also, using the triple format, you can easily connect different data, which at the end forms like the main concept is knowledge assets. So the idea is that everyone in the network can create some knowledge assets, can connect them, and made it out of those different applications or usage. So had a bunch of like already use cases from industry which are a lot of supply chain based, but also are building things like similar to ChatGPT, with just like, let's say, without like hallucination, without using like only fact information that are verified and so on. So that's something that we're working on, and there are a lot of use cases. I particularly started first working on the parachain. So I was developing it since start. We connected to the Polkadot, and we are using it as a main blockchain. But generally, DKG, or decentralized knowledge graph, by itself is a blockchain agnostic protocol. So it was connected before to Ethereum and Polygon. Now it's from the newest version, is only OriginTrail parachain, but the idea is that will be expanded again to Ethereum, also other blockchains connected to Polkadot, but Polkadot, it will be like completely open. Even in future, everyone who wants like to have a support for OriginTrail can by itself create it. So each project, or like some blockchain is interested to have knowledge assets on their chain, it will be able to do that be without our permission or something like that. So yeah, I started with Parachain. Later, I also started development of the latest version 6 of DKG, which is like a ground up version, like completely new build, which we released back in December on the mainnet. And now I'm like in between, also working on the protocol specification of DKG implementation there, but also on parachain. So just today we released the RFC for the parachain governance. So proposals how we want to first version of the governance look like, so we can remove the pseudo from the parachain and kickstart some of the like well-known processes in Polkadot, like democracy referendums and council votings.
Bro, I wanted to talk a little bit about what is a parachain and how it does compare to a Ethereum, network.
Yeah, so we can, I mean, if we start with layering, people would say that Ethereum is just layer 1, but Polkadot in comparison is a layer 0, so one step below, and parachains would be something similar to layer 1s. But again, if you look at Ethereum as a core one, parachains are more similar to the layer 2s on Ethereum. So Polkadot is like let's say like a main part which provides like shared security. So it enables each blockchain to not, if you go with a standalone blockchain, you have like those common security issues, 51% attacks. So you as you or any company cannot just run a network out of 500 nodes. Maybe it's too expensive for them. And if they run like a network of 100 nodes, someone can jump in with 200 and take over that blockchain. So in case of Polkadot, as there is shared security and you're connected to their relay chain, you have the power of all the nodes in the network. So you can run a blockchain with only a couple of nodes called collators, which will create blocks and propose it to the relay chain. And then the relay chain, or in this case Polkadot, will give you the, let's say, validation of those blocks and finalization. So yeah, then besides that, one other additional thing is like the connectivity with protocols such as XCM. It enables you to communicate with different parachains, but not even parachains. It will enable communication with generally different blockchain ecosystems, because the idea of XCM is to be like a language for blockchains to speak between each other. So yeah, this is one other thing that I'm starting to work on connecting my parachain to other ones and starting exchange of tokens, like moving. There is a decentralized exchange on other chain, and we'd like to have our token there so people can use it. So it is
Which
achievable.
chain is that, if I may ask?
Sorry.
Go on, bro. Feel
On
free to
which
ask.
on which decks are you planning to list?
Well, no, not really. I don't have specific. It's more like example. I know that I guess there is on Moonbeam and Akala some dexes, but I don't have any specific in mind right now. It was more just example of what can be done.
And bro, what is your favorite programming language?
Well, I would say it's the one that caused me most pain. It's the Rust. I mean, I jumped into it like directly into Substrate, so I was like learning it backwards. So looking at Substrate and learning Rust, and but at the end, I think it's the most powerful. And it's most, you feel the best way when you're developing using Rust, like the most correct way. You're like, you need to invest more time to develop something. You need, I'm not sure, substreams. I didn't mention that. So yeah, sorry. Looking at chat. for the rest, it will take more time to develop something, but it will push you into direction to think more to develop more secure application. While if you do something in Python, in Node.js, you will develop it quickly. It is nice for prototypes, but at the end, when you need to have some proper applications, some protocols, like it's hard when you don't have types or don't have some specific low-level stuff that is useful, and when you don't have like a full control, like in Rust. So I would say, yeah, Rust is favorite one, and yeah,
Nice.
I will see like a lot of space to learn and improve there. Like it's feel quite much the imposter syndrome whenever I need to do anything in Rust. Like, okay, like how will I do it? Why do I need so much time to make it compile? But yeah, Academy was useful because I saw like much more experienced people and much better than me, like having the same issues there.
So yeah, if you're suffering with Rust, you're not the only one, right? I mean, this is quite clear, you know. And bro, you know, one thing that I'm really curious about, and I really don't know, you know, the EVM, the Ethereum environment, or the Ethereum virtual machine is quite contained. So with the bytecode, there's not a lot you can do in there. But it seems to me like Rust introduces this whole layer of complexity, and but someone was kind of explaining me that the bytecode from the WebAssembly is also contained. So can we talk about this? Does Rust, because it's a bigger and more complex language, introduces more vulnerabilities?
Well, I mean, I guess it introduces some vulnerability because of complexity and the way how is it. It's harder to use, but like in comparison with EVM, I'm not sure. I mean, it will help you resolve all those like common issues like memory and dangling pointers and so on, but yeah,
I understand. I
not
understand. I understand.
sure parallel with EVM and everything. So
I have a question here from
not
Baggy. So he's asking,
yeah.
what are your day-to-day job responsibilities?
Well, yeah. So at the moment, most of the day starts with our like looking at the network APIs. We have some developed some telemetry system that we are always checking out the situations on all our networks, confirming that everything is fine, there are no issues. And then yeah, I'm also like a scrum master for our protocol development team. So we check out like work what is done day before and what's in plan for day. And these days I'm been yeah, we are having in the first half of the day maybe some syncs, looking at some proposals how to implement some stuff on the protocol, how to improve for the DKG, and then work on that part, or I work on parachain things. So last month I was not so much working on parachain, but yeah, now I'm moving to the governance thing. So previously it was more like researching and looking at how different projects implemented governance, created this RFC, and shared it with our community to take a look and provide some feedback before I jump into implementation of that.
Bro, how does it feel to work as a Scrum Master? You kind of change sides now, so you're not on the developer side anymore, or you're doing both things. And how does it feel to control team, having to deal with tasks and everything?
Well, at our side, it's more like the Scrum Master, the one who is also helping team to manage, needs to be an engineer, needs to know how everything works. So it's not much work. It's more like okay, at the end of the day, just confirm if people have some questions, help them. Like it just requires more understanding of everything that we develop, like protocol and side applications and parachains. So it just requires more maybe a bit more communication, but generally like there is all most of the time dedicated for coding and resolving different problems.
Awesome. And one question that I have for you is, did you guys went through any auditing process so far?
Uh, yeah, I'm trying to remember. So we had some other thing before Pargin performed. I guess it was 6 months ago. I'm trying to remember the team name, but also we had a couple of more for smart contracts.
But do you remember like the findings, anything that jumped your eye?
So yeah, for the Pargin there were no issues. It was not like a big audit; it was smaller one. Standard one used for Pargins. And yeah, I cannot remember the name. I think it was Acer Labs that was performing it, so we didn't have any issues there. So far, I don't remember like having also either for the smart contract audits and issues. Like,
Yeah, so I guess nothing big, right? Because if you would remember
yeah,
for
I
sure.
don't remember.
Yeah.
I mean, we usually try to go with the most secure way, using the most like check things most.
But how do you make sure this is the
So
most secure way, you know? Who do you discuss that with? How do you test that?
I mean, it is like comparing with other teams that have how they approach something to implement. So usually for the Parchin Polkadot ecosystem, like Moonbeam, Akala, A-Star are the teams that you look up to and compare with them how they implement everything. And they also have, I would say often, like at least 2-3 years security audits. And then for the smart contract stuff, we have been done some like teleporting of our token from Ethereum to Parachain. And it was like some contracts that are quite common, used a lot of times before, and not by us, but like generally in Ethereum ecosystem. So trying to go with the approach that is like used a lot and it's well known, like not trying to come up with anything new if there is no need for that.
Yeah, never reinvent the wheel, right? I'm gonna open the mic now for some questions. You know, while you guys think on a question, NZT, what do you usually do for fun, bro? What is your fun time?
Well, yeah, I like playing capture the flags, so that's one thing. And also like previous year I started like more into like educational part. I mean, it's more not so educational as much as hanging out and organizing a bit of younger people in my country. So I became like a national coach for our security team, and we went to European Cybersecurity Challenge. It's for like students for 25 years or younger and high school. So that's something I'm also trying like to help them and organize better this team. So it became like a whole year activity to hang out with those students and kids and
That's so nice, man.
organize them security some. So that was one thing that I like to do. Free time. Other things are like related to sports or just learning something new.
Anybody has a question to NZT?
Yeah, I got a question. So my question is, when you were talking about Rust and you said you went off the deep end and was using learning substreams with it, I just wanted to, I guess, first clarify. You mean substreams from the graph? And if so, what was your use case for it? Because I did a similar thing, and I felt like understanding the protobufs and just everything of how the library functioned was extremely difficult, um, but also like very cool to see like these very new kind of techniques being used in a new library.
Yeah, sorry. It probably I said something wrong. I'm not so. I guess I said Substrate, which is the framework for building blockchains in Polkadot ecosystem.
Ah, okay, my bad.
Yeah. So I'm not familiar with Substream, but when you said like it was complicated but interesting, it sounds same as for Substrate. I mean, it is in Substrate to build something new, something that already exists, adapted, but when you need something new to build, it gets complicated.
Yeah, so you might be interested in, well, yeah, I guess just to fill in what substreams is then, it's a new indexing method by the graph to increase the to increase the query and indexing speed for subgraph nodes by up to like 500 to 1000x. And they use some very interesting parallelization techniques um, through Rust, and they break everything down into use Google's protobuf API to translate the bytes through a new tool for the graph so that you can create, you can stream real-time data from the graph nodes, and it's in I believe open beta right now.